Dana 60 teardown. What are you missing a bolt? .960 force. There we go. Pro tip, takes your hex head bolts and use that to wiggle out. Oh, take your snap ring off. That snap ring needs to come out. Behind the snap ring. Stage 8 nuts. You got inner nut, a snap ring, a spider gear, and another nut. Oh, that's a lot. 11/16. Spindle. Axle seal, caliper, bracket, axle shaft. This is what we're after, because we are going to press that U-joint out, replace it with a 4340 35 spline. Stock shaft measures just about 1.251. The Yukon Hardcore 35 spline chromoly 1.45. Alright, this is why we're replacing the U-joint. Rust, grime, grit, disgusting everywhere, and it will probably have rust inside the needle bearings like the other one. Alright, U-joint installed. All the clips on. 35 spline. Alright, caliper bracket on, spindle on, 35 spline axle shaft on, nuts torqued to 65 foot-pounds. Time for the hub and rotor. Locking nut. Groove side facing in, flat side facing out. Bearing is in there. Push it all the way in. Help the hub stay balanced. This is keyed. The spindle key is right there where my pinky is. You can see that little notch. That part lines up with it. This locks the spindle nut like this into that portion. There's one of 8 positions it can fit into. I'm gonna go to 50 foot-pounds. There's 50. To line up in one of the positions to get the back keyed ring and the spindle nut. Alright, you can see it's all lined up. The lock ring has 2 grooves on it. The snap ring goes in the one closest to that lock washer. Snap ring in, up top. All right, now to do the 35 spline hardcore locking hubs. They tell you first step, put the spring in. I am not going to do that. I am going to put the spacer in directly over the spindle. I learned this from Reckless Wrench Garage. It is much easier to do this first and then install the spring, because you can fit your hand in there much easier without the spring. You have the inner gear that lines up with the hub on all of these. Excuse me, the outer gear. Then you have the inner gear. That would be opened. That would be closed or engaged. So these inner splines need to line up with the 35 spline outer stub shaft. And the outers need to line up with the hub while compressing the spring. And then installing this snap ring on that groove in the axle stub shaft. Okay, time for the cam spacer and the engagement. Obviously, lots of grease. This does not appear to matter which way it goes, and these can really only go one way. Snap ring installed. Oh! This is 2 pieces. You need to pop the sensor out. There's an O-ring in there. Here is the inner hub. Grease that. Inside of here, grease that O-ring, put it all on. Yukon says to install it in the locked position, which will line those 2 openings up with those 2 cam spacer marks. After greasing up the inner O-rings, which I did not see anywhere else, in the lock position, you will now have 6 hex bolts. They are a H4 socket, or I believe a 5/32. Yes, 5/32 Allen, torqued to 22 inch-pounds. 3. Locked.